The views and comments expressed on the following radio program by its hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect the views of rmconair.com or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Peace. Welcome to Knowledge Yourself Radio. I'm your host for today, and my name is Jeru Allah. And I'll let my brothers introduce themselves.
Peace. Jakil Knowledge Allah.
Peace. Teray Allah.
So yeah, peace. We have a great show in store for you today. Today's title of the show is What You Don't Know Is Killing You. This show is actually brought to you by GPS, which is Global Position Solutions. And before we actually get into the meat of the show, we're going to actually go into some current events. So I'll pass it over to my brothers.
Peace. So, pardon me. This week, if we were listening to the news, I know I was, KNX 1070 announced that drone planes are actually being discussed by law enforcement in terms of them utilizing the drone planes for sake of law enforcement. And also this comes on the heels of when there has to be a decision, or there already has been a decision about the CIA director by the name of Brennan, who was actually elected formally on Thursday. So the controversy behind drone planes is that they have been used overseas, specifically in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and there has been a large list of complaints in terms of how the drone planes being used militaristically have led to a lot of innocent civilian deaths. So one of the things that came out in the program, KNX, was the fact that there are if you put one drone plane in a city, it can actually look at or watch every person in a city. So it's pretty astonishing.
Yeah, that's
huge. Just the idea of the fact that that much power would be given to a law enforcement agency. Wow. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens now. Last thing, I just did the knowledge on this 24 hours ago, that the FAA, they have these relaxed standards in terms of the fact that drones are about to be used by law enforcement agencies. So very little regulation in regards to that. So watch out for that.
Wow, that's a huge invasion of your privacy too, huh?
Yeah,
Big Brother is watching.
That's crazy.
Indeed. So I've also got a current event. First, I want to start by saying peace to this young lady and her family. She recently passed away after drinking 2 Monster 24-ounce can drinks, and died of heart complications. Yeah, so that's pretty intense. There's a couple things going on about that. For one, I think her mom also may be getting countersued or in the process of getting countersued for speaking on the fact that those drinks on the label actually says not to give it to children. Yeah, so she's being persecuted for speaking what's on the label.
How old was she?
She was 14 years old, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so very young in her life.
Wow.
You know, so that's a sad thing. Another thing that's happening is Monster's moving to change how they have to label their drink. So they're not going to no longer call it a nutritional supplement. It'll now just be like a regular beverage. The important thing about that is now they don't have to report incidents like they have 5 cases pending against them of people who have passed away from the consumption or overconsumption or maybe any consumption of this Monster drink. So
wow, that's crazy. Okay, so as we get into this this meat of the show, some of the questions that we're going to actually answer on this show is: what is food? Pork and the health risk of its consumption. What is GMO? How can you tell what GMO is? What are phthalates? What is fluoride? Why is fluoride harmful? What is the science of the recycling sign on the bottom of your water bottles and microwave containers? What are the dangerous chemicals in water? What is aspartame, and what is high fructose corn syrup? So we had some references for you guys to definitely check out. It's going to obviously go more in depth than we can in this hour, so I definitely recommend checking them out, and I'll let Jaquil read those off.
yeah, definitely. So those are the Fluoride Deception, Food Inc., Flow, Sweet Misery, A Poisoned World, A Disappearing Male, Don't Swallow Your Toothpaste, which I found was a very interesting one, Nutrition and Behavior of Aspartame, and An Inconvenient Tooth. It's kind of a funny title. A lot of those are available to you on Top Document.
Top Documentaries.
There you go, Top Documentaries.
Free online.
Free online.
Okay. So check those out.
Cool. All right, so before we get into it, I have a quote that I'd like to read off for you. The quote comes from Edward Stanley. The quote is, "Those who think they have no time for health and eating will sooner or later have to find time for illness." So I think that, you know, once we get into the show, you'll really see how that ties in. So before the show, you know, I was doing a lot of research, and I started real basic, and I just looked up on dictionary.com the definition of food. So based on dictionary.com, it is any nourishing substance that is eaten, drunk, or otherwise taken in the body to sustain life, provide energy, and promote good health and well-being, etc. So it made me think, because based on the majority of the foods that we see, you know, out there, you know, on a daily basis, they wouldn't really fall under this category. So, you know, so this led me to look up poison. So when you look up poison, it is a substance with an inherent property that tends to destroy life or impair health. So
it seems to be a little more fitting.
Yeah, right. So the majority of the foods that we have here in America would fall more under poison than they would actually fall under food. So I found that interesting.
Right, and it's like you mentioned when we were building the show earlier, is that, you know, the purpose of this show is not only to inform you about certain poisons in what we eat every day, but it's also a reality check in terms of, unfortunately, based on what our research, uncovered what we uncovered in our research, you're going to get something in a food item or something you use in your body that is harmful.
Definitely.
So
yeah, one of the things that, you know, I tell a lot of my clients, I'm actually a personal trainer, so I tell a lot of my clients, like, you're going to get poison no matter what you do. Like, you can't avoid it in the world that we live in this day and time, but it's really important that you try to limit it, as much of it as possible, and, you know, live as healthy as you can. So, so I guess we'll get into the beginning of the show, which is the deadly agents in food, and Jaquil will start that out.
Okay, so I'll be talking about GMOs. and that doesn't stand for anything good. It's genetically modified organisms, and I found a couple interesting things. Mm-hmm. So initially, the whole crossbreeding of plants, different animals, right, was actually engineered by farmers. So you would think that you'd have some guy in a lab coat, a white lab coat, right, mad scientist engineering how to create these things, and it definitely wasn't intended for that purpose. And then initially, what happened was the scientists then took that seed and involved it and did other things with it. Like,
so in the beginning, it was more of like a natural process, though. It wasn't like were they actually engineering chemicals, or was it kind of just crossbreeding?
It was an all natural crossbreeding.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Right, and I looked up what it means to graft things.
Okay.
And actually, there are 3 different definitions for graft, but one of those things has to do with what we're talking about now, just edible items, natural items, the fact that they're crossbreeding seeds and things of that nature, which, I mean, just the information, just reading into GMOs, it's kind of sick, man. I can't really use a different word, because if you crossbreed, let's say, protein from an insect with a wheat plant, which is what they're capable of doing, and then you make that marketable in some sort of food item, how is that going to affect our bodies later?
Well, see, so that's the issue. So you're right. You're right on point with that. Not only are they mixing insects, but right, you have cows, cow genes being put into soybeans, right? Mouse genes put into potatoes, human genes even in rice, rice, potatoes, and corn.
Right.
So they're definitely and that's the scientific part of it. That's outside of the farmer's reach. But the farmers kind of get manipulated into doing this with false claims of you get bigger yields in your food crop. To taste better, you have to use less chemicals.
Right.
Because again, initially when the farmers did this, it was for good reasons, right? Not evil reasons. They're not trying to poison people. Now, whereas you have, I think we were building before. You said 70% of all GMOs are owned by Monsanto. Something to that effect.
Not 90. I think it's 90%. They own like 90%.
90%.
And 70% of our food in the United States is genetically engineered.
Now, so what's interesting about Monsanto is they actually have a patent on life.
Right.
How do you patent life?
Right.
In any event, this is the same company that invented DDT, Agent Orange, and BST in milk, all which were terrible.
Right.
Terrible
exactly.
for the people involved in that.
Definitely.
Right. And one of the interesting things is that, of course, there are opposing views in terms of this issue. So we always encourage people, regardless of the research we present or anyone else presents, you should always read the opposing views and see, both sides of the argument before you decide. So you have the farmers who are interested in natural food items, and then you have the companies who are supporting the scientific development of engineered foods, right? But the thing that really stood out to me, at least when I was watching some of the documentaries and reading some of the literature, is that they don't have to label foods with stickers or any type of labeling that tells the consumer that it's a genetically modified food. And you guys remember Proposition 37?
Right. Yeah.
It was defeated.
Man.
Okay. So the main thing is that now, if you buy anything,
you may not know what's in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? That's in America, because in Europe, there are like little to no GMOs, and that includes France, the UK, and Germany.
Right.
So they're a little ahead of us as far as the whole fight against GMOs and untoxic things.
Right. Well, it's getting a little hot and heated in here, so we'll have to take a break and cool off, but we'll get right back with you on Knowledge of Self Radio. Peace.
Peace.
Hey, are you tired of those same old energy drinks with bad taste? Make a switch to Pit Bull Energy Drink with a guaranteed no aftertaste. Pit Bull offers more energy with ginseng and vitamins B6 and B12. With a ginger ale lemon lime flavor, Pit Bull meets the consumer's demand for better tasting and healthier energy products with a guaranteed no aftertaste. Make a switch to Pit Bull Energy Drink. Pit Bull offers more energy with ginseng and vitamins B6 and B12. With a ginger ale lemon lime flavor, Pit Bull meets the consumer's demand for better tasting and healthier energy products. For more information on Pit Bull energy drinks, bars, and mixes, visit their website at hiphopbev.com. That's hiphopbev.com. Online orders available at hiphopbev.com.
Peace. Welcome back to Knowledge of Self Radio. I am Jarul Allah.
Peace. Jaquil Knowledge Allah.
Peace to Ray Allah.
So yeah, peace. We were before the break we were getting into the genetically modified organisms and going into the science of that. We're going to continue on. I also wanted to let y'all know if y'all wanted to call in. The call-in number is 323-965-1600. 323-965-1600. Okay, so as we continue on, we're going to deal with MSG. You know, I think most of us have heard of MSG, but do we really know what it is? You know,
Right, if you eat Chinese food.
Yeah, right. You know, most people don't know that it's in more things than Chinese food, but what it actually stands for is monosodium glutamate. Basically, they use it to enhance the flavors of food. So based on what we were just building about as it relates to the genetically modified food, of course, when you get genetically modified foods, you're going to lack taste.
Right.
So now you have to introduce certain things
MSG to make it taste better.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's, like I said, it's a flavor enhancer, and it's actually taken from sugar beets. And sugar beets is actually one of Monsanto's genetically modified products.
Wow. So we're not even getting a natural form of the unnatural.
You know, right. It's just a double whammy right there. So, so like I said, it's a flavor enhancer, and many companies use it to, enhance flavors in different products. Some of the products that, MSG is in, not only Chinese food, but canned vegetables, soups, spicy corn chips, ranch dressing. I know a lot of people use that ranch. Sausages, hot dogs, barbecued meats, processed deli meats, and any kind of sauce. A lot of different sauces. And a specific type of sauces like those powdered packets. So like the gravies that you add water to and stuff like that. Yeah, so.
Interesting.
So like Top Ramen, right?
Yeah, your Top Ramen is one of the major ones. So I remember in college I used to kill those. So. I'm surprised I'm still standing right now, but okay. Also, it's in nacho cheese Doritos. So it's known as an excitotoxin. So basically that means when you eat it, it's going to cause your nervous system to kind of go out of whack. So some of the symptoms of eating it are headache, flushing, sweating, facial pressure or tightness, numbness, tingling, or burning in the face, neck, and other areas.
Wow.
Heart palpitations, chest pain, and in children, ADHD, autism, and in the elderly, Alzheimer's. So those are a couple things. One thing that was interesting to me is that scientists actually use it to make mice obese.
Wow.
Interesting.
And they don't even have to feed it to the mice, but for the early part of their life. So, like, say,
Wow.
you know, early part of their life, they give them some MSG, feed them regularly for the rest of their life, but they generally become obese.
Wow. So the effects of that still pertains from the youth all the way up until
Exactly. So you can see how childhood obesity is so prevalent in America based on, you know, the MSG and all these different products. So,
What do you think, Jerome? What do you think led to a lot of Chinese food restaurants to stop using MSG? What was it you think that led to that? 'Cause
I would say just, you know, just the pressure. Like I said, a lot of people would eat the Chinese food, and then right after they'd feel a lot of these symptoms and effects. And, you know, obviously you get a lot of pressure from, you know, negative publicity, but it's not like they're looking at the full spectrum. They're like, oh, Chinese food has MSG, but they're not looking at Doritos or all these other products.
Could have
Right.
MSG?
And you know what came to mind when you were building on that is the idea of food poisoning. So genetically modified foods and things like MSG, you know, trigger food poisoning.
Right.
So we go back to the restaurant and we say, "You gave me something bad to eat." Where they say, "No, the food is fresh." But what we're not aware of are the types of chemicals they're using in our food.
Right.
Which
Not
leads to
only
that.
are they using in the food, kind of going back to the GMO conversation, they've got corn that produces its own insecticide. So
BT. Yeah.
BT. Now, but BT within itself is not bad. It's found naturally within the soil, and the farmers would spray it externally on the plants. It would burn from the sun, and you know, and if anything, you just wash it off. You're good to go. But when you have a plant that's producing it itself, you know, due to genetic modifying, they don't know the effects.
Right. And I think that's definitely something we should mention. In the 1980s, they regarded genetically modified foods as generally regarded as safe. So under that title or under that status, it meant that there was no obligations for the industry to do any long-term studies on them.
Right. Right.
This was the 1980s. Now, GMOs weren't introduced till 1996. So that, to me, that seemed kind of fishy and interesting there.
Right, and you mentioned the agencies, right? So we I don't like to use this word, depend on the Food and Drug Administration to regulate the food items that we consume. And there's some big business behind GMOs and all these type of corporations that are modifying foods and using these chemicals. So they're not really regulating it. There's not really a strict code of regulation.
And one of the biggest reasons for that is if you look at like a lot of the heads of the FDA and a lot of the heads of Monsanto, they actually change seats. So one might be the head executive of the FDA one week, and then transfer over and be in Monsanto the next week.
Right.
So of course,
he's got a vested interest in
exactly. So the one that's regulating is in essence a part of the same. They're a part of the same team.
It's like not snitching on your homeboy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To put it in street terms,
Right,
you're not gonna snitch on your homeboy. Yo, I got you, G. Just make your money.
So yeah, that's crazy. So basically, one thing I definitely want to mention relating to MSG is that it's been known and linked to be very addictive. So when you eat them Doritos and you can't eat more than you're forced to eat more than one. Now you know why.
Right, and cup of noodles.
Right.
Teenagers love cup of noodles.
Yeah, I was one of them.
They love cup of noodles, man.
Yeah. Quick and easy to make. But I think that kind of goes into the next conversation, speaking on pork and kind of foods that contain pork. You mentioned Doritos. The cheese in Doritos actually has pork. Yeah, which I didn't know because, like you said, who doesn't love Doritos?
Right.
Now I know why I couldn't just eat just one. That's interesting.
So yeah, as we move on, I guess we'll get more into pork and what are some of the foods and different things that you can find pork in.
Jerome, I wanted you to go into the idea of how McDonald's uses pork because that was a new revelation for me. So
Okay, I think that was actually me who
I'm sorry.
told
Yeah,
that to
Okay,
you.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, because it surprised me. One of the ways that they use it, which I know you guys are going to hate this, for those who don't consume pork, which all of you shouldn't consume pork, but they use it in apple pies.
Wow.
Yeah, go figure, right? Yeah, those tasty, golden, brown, delicious morsels of tastiness, just pork infested.
Man,
Yeah,
that's wild.
Uh-huh.
Is it in the fries too? I think it's in the
Yeah,
French fries
definitely
also.
in the French fries and the shortening, which a lot of restaurants, I guess, follow suit. And
That's crazy. Yeah, and also a lot of these fast food places use MSG also. So, you know, when you get hungry and you wonder why you automatically want to hit up McDonald's, you know, a lot of that is the reason why. So, you know, anybody want to add on relating to pork?
I mean, you know, in our nation, we advocate that you don't eat pork. So I'll just share my story. Before I came into this nation, 2010, so we're talking about from the time I was 18 till now. So that's about 22 years. I haven't had the flu. Okay, so that would be one of the first things that I could tell people is that I haven't had the flu since I stopped eating pork. Okay, and that's actual fact. So here we are in 2013, and this was being pushed probably maybe the 20s or 30s since I guess certain Muslims came to the United States. But people have been telling, you know, people in the world in general that pork is harmful, has no nutritional value. So here we are many, many years later, and we're finding that pork leads to high cholesterol, it leads to heart disease and a variety of other illnesses.
I remember reading an article just recently came out where like this lady, I think she was like 83 years old. They did like an autopsy on her.
I saw that.
Opened her brain up and she found that she had maggots actually living in her brain.
Yeah, I think it was part of the worm that comes from the pork.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah,
that,
she
right?
ate a lot of pork in her lifetime.
Trichinosis.
Exactly.
Right.
And that can be linked to a lot of, you know, psychological illnesses and things of that nature. So that's deep too.
Yeah, I think people, you know, one of the things that got me about pork was that the most poisonous snake in the world could bite a pig and it won't die. Just because it's that toxic already.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's built to be it's built to deal with that toxicity.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which if that snake bites anything else, you know, it's a goner.
Right. Right.
And there's a movie out there, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's mistaken. It's called Snatch.
Okay.
Is that the movie? It's the settings in England where there's one scene
Brad
where
Pitt.
the pigs.
Brad Pitt's like he's like a boxer or something in it, I think.
I don't recall. I have to go back into my mind.
Yeah,
but
I think I know
it's
what
one
you're
of those
talking about.
movies where pigs were used to eat up a dead body.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's an actual fact.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think one of the guys in our nation wrote a really good article in the Black God Anthology, where it's breaking down like a brief history of pork, about how they were used to clean the streets of Spain. You know, I mean, they're highly intelligent creatures, but they're not meant to be eaten.
Right.
You know, I mean, aside from that, they eat anything.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's important to note that whatever you eat, if it's alive, you're eating not only that, but you're eating whatever it ate too. So, yeah. So,
Indeed.
as we move on, we want Teray to go ahead and build on the high fructose corn syrup and aspartame.
All right. So let's get into what aspartame is. So those of you who've used Sweet and Low, or you use Sweet and Low, you use NutraSweet, any non-saccharide sugar or sweetener has aspartame in it. So aspartame is a really hazardous or a really, you know, bad chemical agent that's being used in a lot of consumer foods. Another name for it is sulfamate potassium. So if you look at the labeling, it might not say aspartame, it might say sulfamate potassium. So this has been attributed to quite a few, you know, bad health consequences, so to speak, notably high blood pressure, weight gain, and miscarriage. If you were to look up aspartame on Google, for example, you're going to see a list of ailments that are attributed to aspartame. And when you look at it, it looks like a small powder. You look at it in powder form. It's really, it looks like a flour. That's how I saw it. Also, one of the things that it's attributed to is miscarriages. So if you're pregnant, for you to use any type of aspartame-related sweetener, you're actually endangering your pregnancy. So it just requires us to be a little bit more, informed, but more than that, to be more proactive in reading labels.
For sure. I know it's in Diet Cokes, and that's a big thing. I know when I was younger, I used to work at McDonald's, so you'd see the guy come in like, let me get a double quarter pounder, supersize it, and make it an extra large Diet Coke. And, he was thinking he was getting ahead. He was really, beyond eating McDonald's and a double quarter pounder, he's feeding himself aspartame.
Yeah, I actually saw a study that just came out where they proved that aspartame actually causes basically it shuts down the part of your brain that tells you you're full, and that's generally why you see some of the most obese people drinking diet drinks because of the aspartame. But
incredible irony.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I must say.
One of the other things I saw, I was going to say, in 1988. Almost 80% of the complaints that were volunteered, I guess, to the agency that the FDA or whatever that would regulate that agency, 80% of those complaints that were volunteered, they were all complaints about aspartame and the effects of aspartame that it had on people.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's good that you forgot the FDA because they don't do anything. There's no point in even mentioning them if they're allowing all these hazardous elements to come into society.
Right. How do you get a job there so that you can
just be a scientist.
Get that free paycheck, right?
True indeed. One of the last things I wanted to add on was the fact that aspartame affects endocrine regulation, so to speak, so hormonal regulation. That was one of the most significant things that I found.
Yeah.
Using
dealing
aspartame.
with the nervous system.
Yes.
All the effects of that could happen. Synapses to the brain, like you were mentioning.
So now what happens if you mix aspartame and MSG and all these other different things? It's going to be all out of whack.
Right.
So
have a drug
You'd be a
nation.
great candidate for a lot of pharmaceutical drugs.
Man. Okay, so we're about to get into another break, and we'll get back with you. Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Welcome back to Knowledge of Self Radio. I'm Jarul Allah.
Peace. Jakil Knowledge Allah.
Peace. Teray Allah.
And before the break, we were getting into aspartame, and we basically were wrapping that up. All this information that we're providing, we want to obviously give you guys some information on how to try your best to avoid it. So we're going to go a little bit into how you actually should read your food labels. So basically, one thing I would say is when you look at the ingredients on the label, the ones that are closer to the top are the ones that are the majority of the actual the product. So By and large, like you're gonna see, for example, high fructose corn syrup, which is, very toxic chemical. One thing that I learned about that high fructose corn syrup, there's a certain secretion that comes out of your stomach that tells you that you're hungry. So that growling in your stomach comes from a certain secretion called ghrelin. And when you're full, when you eat, you're full, another secretion called leptin tells you that you're full. But when you consume high amounts of high fructose corn syrup, which you can find that in everything, it just keeps that ghrelin flowing, and it basically it tells you that you're not full.
That's why when you drink that fruit juice, it tastes so good. You just want to have
Exactly.
another glass,
Exactly.
and another glass, and another glass.
Right. So you can find high fructose corn syrup in a lot of things: ketchup, juice. It's just about anything that's sweet. You're gonna find it in there. So. And you're going to probably see it as either the first or second ingredient in most things. So it's a vast majority of whatever product you eat, it's going to be there. So basically, one thing I'm going to say is that whatever you eat, look at the label, and if you can't recognize the majority of what's on that label, leave it alone.
Put that back.
Leave it alone. Like we could sit here and try to tell you, well, look for this, this is this. But if you were out in the wilderness and you saw some fruits or vegetables or something that you didn't recognize, you're not going to pick it up and eat it.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're probably going to leave it alone. So the same applies when you're in the grocery store. So.
Right.
And we were talking about that outside, about the different words that you find in the labeling. So for example, one of the things that came out in our research was the word fragrance, right? So fragrance is actually, it could be any number of the hazardous chemicals that we've mentioned on this program thus far.
That's interesting.
So anything that has fragrance in it is something that's been added in there. It's a chemical that makes it smell like roses, for example. What were the other ones?
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because I know part of the game of what they do is they manipulate. I can't say manipulate. They add on to the definition of something pre-existing so that they don't have to list whatever toxic thing it is.
So would you say that keeps people illiterate?
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I could see, basically what they're trying to do is trick you a little bit so that you can't, like average person sees a chemical word on an ingredient, they're going to say, I don't know what that is, but I'll eat it anyway. So
the picture looks good.
Exactly. It smells good, But definitely, if you see the huge chemical words and things of that nature that you don't recognize, leave it alone. That's the simplest way that you can approach reading the label.
I do have a few as it relates to pork. Some I didn't know. You have your obvious ones like lard, animal fats, animal glycerine, homogenized animal proteins, enzymes. Anytime you see enzymes, they may come from pork/animal source for any vegan, vegetarians.
Nasty, man.
Yeah. If you see enzymes, try to look for the vegetable enzymes.
Right.
A lot of these, if you see vegetable and then, whatever word, like
Then
vegetable glycerin,
good
vegetable
source,
then you'll be a little bit better off,
Okay. One interesting one that I found was dough conditioner. Yeah, I don't even know.
Wow.
I thought to condition dough, you used your hand and you kneaded the dough, right? That's not dough conditioning. Who knows about that one?
I think they'd have to pay someone to do that job, so it's a little easier to use a chemical, you know what I mean? From a business standpoint, I guess. But, so, as we move on, we're going to go ahead and get into the dangers of water. And I'll let Teray take that.
All right. Well, let's begin with the amount of water that you drank today. Okay, so it's not necessarily a growing controversy, but it has been a controversy for quite some time since they introduced fluoride into the water supply, into our water systems. So the first thing is that we need to keep in mind that there are several dangerous chemicals in water. Most notably for this discussion is fluoride. So most of you understand that fluoride is used in our toothpaste, but in the 1950s, a decision was made to actually put it in our water supply because it's been shown to combat teeth decay, which is why it's in toothpaste.
So they care that much about our teeth that they put it in our water.
Exactly.
Wow. They're some great people, man. That government.
Exactly.
Man, they're so thoughtful.
You know, I mean, a really good film to watch. I mean, there's a wealth of information about fluoride out there. You can just put in a search for the dangers of fluoride. There's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Paul Conant, who is a professor of chemistry at St. Louis University in New York. And one of the things that he mentioned was that in breast milk, there's approximately 0.004 ppms of fluoride in mother's milk.
Wow.
So his analogy was this, that Mother Nature is not, incorrect. Okay, so if that is the correct dosage of fluoride in mother's milk, then as a society or human beings, we shouldn't be consuming any more than that in what we drink or eat, for that matter.
Or take a shower in.
Exactly.
Right.
So one of the things that was pointed out in his discussion is that there is approximately 1 liter of fluoride that is put in the water supply. Now,
So what do
may
you-
not sound like a lot, right?
So what would you say they're doing that for?
The main thing was that is to prevent tooth decay. And when fluoride is used in low dosages or safe dosages, apparently it aids the bone calcification. So apparently it leads to stronger bones.
Okay, but
Well,
right.
Aside from that,
although that's
Yeah.
what they
they haven't
say.
justified
But
it.
what would be some of the side effects to fluoride?
Right. Well, I was going to say that's interesting. You said they say it leads to bone increase and strengthening.
Right.
And actually, it does the opposite of that. More
Right.
people have been getting, and you see it in the teeth first, since they're kind of the first thing that you have, I guess, open as far as bones go on your body. You see, the teeth getting holes in them due to the increase of fluoride, and it's pertaining to like the proper dosage. I think it was something like 1 part per milliliter or something like that,
Right.
and then the toxic dosage is 4 parts per milliliter.
and it's all based on body weight.
Right.
Right.
So if you're a little bit thinner in stature,
Yeah, I read that 2 to 4 ounces could kill a small child.
wow.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember it's crazy because I remember being in I think it was like 2nd or 3rd grade. They used to come in with a tray full of little fluoride rinses that all the children in the class had to gargle with.
Yes.
So if we're getting enough in the
Water.
supply, then why do I have to gargle with it? And I'm brushing my teeth with it. But when you really start to look at what sodium fluoride does to the brain, it actually makes you docile. Makes you less aggressive. It makes you less aware, and it keeps you in a ignorant state of mind. It was actually. Did y'all catch any or get any research about how it was used in the concentration camps at all?
I had skimmed that.
Yeah,
Right.
they used it to keep a lot of the Jews in the concentration camps in a docile state. So
Now, this is where when you work with some brothers that do the knowledge, as we say, right? You're able to make connections. So if you remember the last show, we talked about what happens when the hypothalamus is underdeveloped, right? And the child is born and they're more prone to being effeminate or, so to speak, more masculine. The fact that fluoride, not only does it calcify the bones, but when you consume too much, which we do, it's in the water supplies and juice, it's in just about everything that we drink. What happens is it also begins to affect the brain, right, through calcification. So once that happens, it also can lead to the pineal gland being calcified. Right. And this is where I wanted to take you guys to an essay written by I believe it's Robert Bailey in the Knowledge of Self, in the Science of Self text, where he talks about what happens when the pineal gland is open, so to speak, and it's not calcified. And actually, the difference between original people in Africa and original people here is that the pineal gland is not as calcified, and that is commonly attributed to fluoride, the fact that we're consuming fluoride in large amounts. So, it all adds up as we continue on this journey. Fluoride.
Yeah.
Right. One thing else I want. Oh.
No, I was just gonna say I think it's a major ingredient in rat poison too, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Definitely. And not only that, they have a new form of fluoride, which is called, and pardon me if I mess up this pronunciation, hexafluoridic salicylic acid. Yeah, try saying that 3 times fast.
Maybe to me it seems like they make it such a large word that it's like intimidating. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you look at it, you're like, I'm not even messing with that. I don't even, you know what I mean?
Right.
So you just.
So as you were speaking about the water, that's I only mention that because you have some water filters that attempt to do a job of filtering out fluoride and other type of heavy metals that you find in your water. So they stepped their game up, kind of like Matrix Part 2 when Neo was fighting that dude. He was like, "Oh, y'all got upgrades, huh?" Right. Yeah. So make sure you're getting a water filter that can handle this new type of fluoride that they have.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. Now we're gonna get into a little bit of what we should look for as it relates to the recycling sign on water bottles. And Jaquil, we'll let him take that.
Yeah, so I'll add on to that. Basically, on your water bottle, and I should have brought you guys a picture, but you'll see a recycling sign. Inside that recycling sign, you'll see a corresponding number in there. 1, 2, 3, 4 goes all the way up to 7. 7 being the best, 1 being the cheapest. So now the important part of this is that the water that you drink, anyone that you buy out of the store, your Arrowhead, whatever kind of water bottle, it's going to be made out of this number 1 plastic. This plastic, when it gets room temperature, leaks formaldehyde and other kind of heavy metals.
BPA, right?
Yeah, BPA into your water or whatever it is that you're eating. So when you have these microwavable foods, the quick dinners that we've been talked into feeding our babies. They're using that cheap kind of plastic, and so it leaks all these kind of things into your food and your water.
And what do we use formaldehyde for in our society?
Embalming dead people.
Right.
Yeah, not feeding living people.
Right. Right.
Man.
Unless you're trying to deal with zombies. Right. Maybe that's what the CDC was talking about.
You notice a lot of the zombie movies that are popular nowadays. Okay,
Walking Dead.
It's kind of interesting.
It's a cool flick.
Okay, yeah. So,
oh well, go ahead, guys. Well, I was going to add on to that. You'll see like your sparklet water. Now I'm talking about your big like office kind of water bottle that you see, or if you get it delivered to your house. If you look on that recycling sign, it'll actually have a 7 on it, and that's what you really want to deal with if you're going to use any kind of plastics. It's one that at least is 6 or higher. So if you have good Tupperware, you notice that it's definitely like a 5, 6, if not 7. And the important thing about that is when it does heat up to room temperature, those kind of things don't leak into your food and water. So the resistance of the material, the durability of it is a lot stronger than your typical water bottle that has a 1 or 2 on it.
Okay, that's peace. Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention when it comes to finding a water that's a little bit more clean, you can try to avoid, the fluoride and other different trace chemicals in it. You could actually look at like water treatment stores in your area. Easiest way would just be to go to Google, type in, water treatment plants or water treatment stores, and you'll get a search and you'll find all types of stores. Go there and look more for your alkaline water, which I'm not going to go too far into alkaline, but it deals with, a higher pH, which is good for our bodies, good for our blood and things of that nature. Actually good for our bones also. Yeah, so you could definitely do that. So we'll continue moving on, and we're going to we want to get into the cosmetics and some of the miscellaneous chemicals that we're exposed to on a daily basis. One very important one that, has been, I guess, noteworthy as of late is BPA. BPA, which Jaquil was building about, is something that they put in a lot of plastics. And basically what it does is it makes it transparent, it makes it more flexible. So a lot of water bottles, a lot of Tupperware and things of that nature, it's you can find it in that. It's an industrial chemical, and basically you can find it. I'm going to tell you some of the things you can find it in, first and foremost. Canned food, toilet paper, beer, wine, recycled products, credit card receipts, plastic cups, drinking water bottles, like I said, baby food jars, and baby toys.
Wow.
So
getting them young.
Yeah,
like you're talking about earlier. If you feed them a certain amount while they're young, and the effects grow on into adulthood.
Right. And one thing that I found interesting about BPA was that in the body it mimics estrogen.
Wow.
Right.
So that goes back to the other show. What we
exactly
said earlier.
Talks about deals right with last show. So some of the actual dangers of it is heart disease, intestinal damage, infertility and reproductive issues, erectile dysfunction, diabetes, obesity, and behavioral changes in children. So those behavioral changes in children are probably going to deal more with male children being more feminine based on that increase in estrogen-like substance in their body.
Right.
You know?
Which interesting documentary, which I mentioned on the references, The Disappearing Male. They talk about that and how men... they took a study of men in college, right? They produced something like 50% less semen than their parents did.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you follow that trend, it'll be even lower, right? And then, not only that, the ones that they did have that made it or that were able to be produced, a large percentage of those were also found to be abnormal. Yeah, so they're really reducing your chances of reproducing yourself in a normal, full functioning way.
Because of hazardous agents and what we consume.
Right.
But you have nice teeth.
Right.
Well, will you then?
In some cases, right?
Right.
Whoa.
So yeah, as you can see, BPA is something you don't really want to be exposed to. One way to strive to avoid it is to look for BPA-free plastics and things of that nature. But based on a lot of the studies they've done, all the way down to 6 years old, like 95% of the people's urine that they've tested have BPA in it, and a substantial amount at that. So it's very difficult to avoid it. But do your best, like I said, to buy BPA free. Get your water, because think about water. That's something that you do more than anything is drink water. So try to get your water from a water treatment place. So
you should be.
Right. You should be.
And right, I mean, and this is the other thing that just listening to the discussion that really it upsets me, because those of us who go to see doctors, we have our regular checkups, and they give us a urine. They have us provide them a urine sample, but they never tell us that these harmful agents are in our urine.
Right.
So either they don't know, or they don't feel that is important to reveal to us, because plasticizers and BPA and MSG and all these other chemicals that we've mentioned, they literally destroy the body over the course of years.
Part of it, it's a little bit of both. Remember, it's doctors, nurses, ministers, and cremators, right?
Indeed.
But not all of them knew exactly what's going on. And part of that is a lot of things that happen, we end up being the guinea pigs for it, like the whole GMO thing. They're not testing that anywhere else except for on people. And so,
Right.
you know what I mean? So as people develop and you are able to link enough things to this cause, then you can determine that this is bad or this is good.
True indeed.
Right. And then they'll change it, and then something else takes its place.
Right.
Wow.
That's why you see the leading causes of death here in America are heart disease, cancer, and chronic lower respiratory diseases. It's tied directly to these types of things, being exposed to these types of things. So,
wow.
Yeah. As we move on, we're going to get into some of the different products that we expose ourselves to as it relates to, cleaning products, deodorant, lotion, and things of that nature around the house. So we'll start. I'll start first with deodorant. Everybody puts deodorant on, so let's start there. Some of the stuff that I found very interesting about deodorant, first and foremost, is aluminum. And that's what you really want to avoid in your deodorant, because what it does is it clogs your pores up. And then when those pores become clogged, it can actually cause you to develop cancer, Also, it's linked to Alzheimer's, the aluminum buildup in your system.
Right, true indeed.
And can I interject real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Some of us who use aluminum-based deodorants, back in the day when I didn't know anything about this, when you use too much of it, you'll develop a little lump in your armpit.
Right.
And you'll probably be told by someone in your family, that ain't nothing but a hair bump.
Right.
You know what I mean? But really it's attributed to what the brother's saying about your pores being clogged up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, people need to realize that your skin is an important is an important organ that eliminates different toxins and stuff in your body.
Right.
So, if you have those pores clogged up, it's not going to be able to do its job properly.
Right. Looks like we have a caller, so we'll go ahead and bring them in. Peace, you're on the Knowledge of Self Radio. Who's calling?
Kwame calling from Gardena, California. How you guys doing?
Hey, peace, God.
Peace, God.
Peace. How you?
Yeah, I know you guys are moving deep into a whole bunch of other subjects, but I kind of wanted to get into the beef for a second, because I know it's a lot of people that love to pound ground beef from a lot of these burger joints. Well, I know Monsanto's kind of one of the big boogeymen, but you also have a company named Cargill, and Cargill is kind of known as a big meat company, and what they tended to do is they would send out ground beef that would have pork fat cut up into it.
Wow.
So that it would stay, a lot juicier, of course, when you're cooking it, because a lot of people, they like a nice greasy, juicy burger and things of that nature.
Right.
Now, one thing I'll pose, and I guess I'll take you guys' opinion off the air, is a lot of times when you use deodorants that don't have aluminum, aluminum is mostly known to be antiperspirants. Chances are you're gonna be a pretty humming, pretty loud, pretty white cat. So, what do you guys suggest as far as a deodorant, or really an antiperspirant that doesn't use aluminum? I mean especially antiperspirant, because usually that's the stuff that could hold you a lot longer and keep you from stinking up the joint, because I've got some musty friends out there over here.
Yeah, peace. We'll build on that. But thanks for the call. We'll basically the deodorant I use is actually from a company called Desert Essence. For me, it works fine. If you ever have issues with being funky, just wipe your armpits down and keep it moving. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, as we move on, we want to start to wrap the show up. So some of the things that we wanted y'all to examine, first and foremost, is a great book called African Holistic Health. Another great book that I have here called The Hood Health Manual. So definitely check that out. It's very great book because it's animated and it's interesting, but it provides a lot of the information that we're building about more in depth. Some things that we'd like you to view, first and foremost, is Food Inc. and a movie called Forks Over Knives. And the things we'd like you to do is, if you have your regular doctor, maybe think about looking at a doctor that's going to look at your health more in depth. So you could look at more of a holistic type of doctor and, deal with him more from a health and nutrition perspective. Also, look up some superfoods and get some exercise and a good multivitamin. I'll let Jaquil build a little bit about multivitamins. That'd be great.
Yeah, just to give it to you real quick, we'll post some more information on our Facebook page. But the long and short of it is you want to strive to look for a good multivitamin that's in a liquid form, so it'll be more bioavailable to the body. And do a little research as to the process. What happens with a lot of multivitamins is that they're not able to bypass the liver, so you end up urinating a lot of these vitamins out quickly, and they don't get absorbed into the body. So.
Okay, so as we wrap up here, we'd like you to definitely check out our Facebook which is Knowledge of Self, or / Knowledge of Self Radio, Facebook.com / Knowledge of Self Radio. You can look at our Twitter also, which is at KOS Radio 123, and we also put together a YouTube channel, which is KOS 9 Radio. So definitely check that out so you can see the archives of our shows that we put together so far. And, you know, we're thankful for all the support that you guys have provided for us here on Knowledge of Self. And, you know, with that being said, I'm going to say peace. And we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.